Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the 31st film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and is the first film in five of the MCU, and the first one that released in 2023. Cassie Lang, played by now Catherine Newton, the daughter of Scott Lang, Ant-Man, played by Paul Rudd, creates a device that signals back and forth between their world and the quantum realm. So by accident, her and her dad, Sky, Hope Van Dyne, the Wasp, played by Evangeline Lilly, Janet Van Dyne, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas, gets sucked into the quantum realm. And Janet forgot to tell her family all about what happened in those 30 years in the quantum realm. The biggest thing is the person who runs the quantum realm, Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, who also has help from his hunter, MODOK, played by Corey Stoll. The film is 2 hours and 5 minutes long and is PG-13. Welcome back to a brand new movie review here on Max Talks. We're talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell, do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show every single week. So please subscribe and ring that bell. We're over 130 subscribers. Let's get to 140 as quickly as possible. So please like and subscribe as well. Like the video, the thumbs up button up above. That would be such a fantastic way to support the channel, and comment down below. First of all, if you have not checked out this movie, are you excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? When are you going to see this movie? Or are you just going to wait for it on Disney Plus? Is this one of the Marvel movies that you are cool with waiting for at home? If you've seen it, tell me, did you like it, not like it? But again, I'm going to say this right before this review. There will be no spoilers even hinted at in this review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I will be doing a spoiler review of this movie tomorrow. After I kind of sleep on it, I understand a lot of the things. I did some research as well. So Saturday, you'll get my spoiler breakdown of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So no spoilers in the chat. If they will be deleted. But stay tuned. If you see Ant-Man and the Wasp, come back to my spoiler review. So I was very excited for this movie. I actually am going to give, I guess, lukewarm spoilers on the rest of the MCU. I was very excited for this because obviously Jonathan Majors is one of top 3 of my favorite actors working right now. Really got to know him in The Five Bloods, but also really got to know him in Lovecraft Country, which sadly got canceled after 1 season. And he's going to be on, he's been on a roller coaster. He's on a roll, I should say. The Harder They Fall, one of the best Netflix films in 2021. His debuting Kang in the Man Who Remains in Loki season 1 finale. And obviously he's going to be the villain in 2 weeks for the new Creed film. So he's on a roll. But I also really like Ant-Man as a character. This franchise is a lot of fun to me. Not really special films. I really liked the first film a lot. Wasn't a huge fan of the second film in this franchise, but his character has been so great from the start. So I was very excited for this movie. Let's get into my positives, then negatives, then my score. I was just alluding to Jonathan Majors, and he is by far and away the best part of this movie. Now, he's not in the movie as much as I thought he was in. The first, half of this movie, he is definitely either you feel his presence in the movie and he's there in spurts, but he really becomes that factor towards the last hour of this film. And when he comes in, the movie totally shifts to a much better film. The second half of this movie for me is a lot better than the first half of the film. That's because Kang is a featured leading character in the remaining hour of this movie, and he is a terrifying presence in this film. Jonathan Majors once again is scene stealing as his character, as he was. Know that episode of Loki, the finale episode of Loki, was very divisive. But I don't think anyone can deny Jonathan Majors. I do think moving forward that the MCU is in really great hands, as he is going to be the big bad for at least the next 5 or so years of the MCU. We'll see if he is the next Thanos, but again, they're handling this very different. Thanos was very much in the background in the first couple phases of the MCU, then he really took over, obviously, in Infinity War and Endgame. This way, they're having Kang in multiple different films building to those couple Avengers films in the next couple of years. So he is terrifying in this film. The way he talks, he's definitely a philosophical villain. He does, again, very similar to Loki, does talk a lot, but he gets into the action, unlike that we saw in Loki. And when he gets into the action is quite fantastic in this film. And everything surrounding Kang works in this movie. And he is truly terrific, and he gets me excited for the MCU. Him alone gets me ready for the next phase of the MCU and beyond, because he is so captivating as this character, and I'm really excited to see how his career continues to take off. And if this is your first time checking him out, I'm very excited and jealous that this is the first time you will see Jonathan Majors. Another surprise thing is my favorite of the family bunch by far, the only other really character that I thought had an arc to it in the film was Janet, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. She keeps a lot of the things that she went through, Janet does in this movie, to herself. And there's a lot of things that she probably should have told the family. But she's a very fascinating character in the first hour and a half of this movie. She kind of gets sidelined in the last 30 minutes of the movie. But first hour and a half, she was very much featured, and she's kind of the introduction. She kind of is the exposition, but she was very good in this movie. And I just love Michelle Pfeiffer. As always, I love Paul Rudd. I love Michael Douglas. I love Evangeline Lilly, and also I really enjoy Catherine Newton as an actress, but Rudd, Lilly, Douglas, and Pfeiffer all bring it as usual. And I still love to see these characters, and hopefully we do more moving forward in the MCU. Obviously, a lot of talk is going to be about MODOK, and I feel like a lot of people are going to have very different reactions to this character. This is a character that I've read the comics on. If you're new to my channel, I did a whole review of that Hulu MODOK show that came out, I think, in 2021. So I know a lot about MODOK, and obviously I knew Corey Stoll was going to be MODOK in this movie, and he's in the trailers. I'm not really spoiling anything there. I liked MODOK. There are aspects where MODOK is awesome in this movie, and there's also moments where he's not very good in the movie. Obviously, the CGI is not very good. Again, it's really tough to have that floating head translate from comic book and even animation into live action. I think the movie does struggle with that. I think there's at a point where I don't think they needed him to be out of the mask as much as he was in this movie. But I actually liked MODOK. I had a lot of fun with him for the most part in this movie. This is obviously a much bigger scope than the first two Ant-Man films. And this is a very efficient film, which I actually enjoyed how quick. The movie gets right to the point. We're in the Earth for like the first 15 minutes of the movie, maybe, and then we're right into the action, which I like. But as I said, I actually really enjoyed the action scenes. All the action scenes I thought were tons of fun in this movie. The scope, the CGI, the visual effects I thought were actually really well done in this movie. That's like Kang really dominates the presence of this movie. But for me, this is definitely going to be a disappointing film, I guess. I'm not actually going to say that, actually. I don't think it's a disappointing film. But this, for me, was a fine film. I think the biggest problem with this movie is that Ant-Man himself, and really most of the characters, really maybe even all of the characters in this film, just have no character arcs. There's no growth. They're just the same characters that you've seen before this film, other than Kang. You learn more things about Janet in this movie, which was nice. But again, she kind of gets forgotten about towards the end of the movie. And Ant-Man's just there. He's just screaming that hopefully Cassie is safe the whole movie. And sadly, there's just nothing from a story point of view and a plot point of view that really drives, gives Scott Lang himself a character arc. And again, I love Paul Rudd. I love Ant-Man. But from a character point of view, there just isn't much for him to do in this movie. And it's really his movie. So it's Ant-Man and the Wasp. And again, Hope doesn't really have anything new. They're the same characters where they left off in Endgame, and the way we end the movie is the same ways we begun the movie. There just wasn't any character growth. There wasn't even like learning from a father point of view with the dynamic between Scott and Cassie. And I thought they really should have gone into the fact that Scott lost those 5 years with Cassie. And I felt like the second trailer really hinted that that's what the story was going to be about with Scott trying to get back time, the 5 years that he lost, blipped out, missing a lot of Cassie's life. And the movie just doesn't do that at all. It addresses it maybe 1 or 2 times, but that should have been the central focus of the Scott and Cassie relationship. And sadly, I think the the weakest character in this movie out of the main cast is Cassie. I just didn't find. I love Catherine Newton. If you've seen this channel, I'm a big fan of her in a lot of roles. But it's sadly the character. She's perfect as Cassie Lang, but it's really the character, the dialogue that she has to deliver towards the third act, which is just really bad dialogue. And she is very unlikable. She is very much a bratty character in the first act of the movie, and it's kind of all her fault that this movie happens. So it's so tough where she keeps like nagging at her dad the whole movie, like, why aren't you doing this? And it just felt really off to me, that character. And I think moving forward, they need to make some changes on Cassie, the way she interacts with her dad moving forward in the MCU, or just her character herself just moving on in the MCU moving forward. So for me, I didn't really feel any emotional attachments. There wasn't any of that deep stuff. And it's a very big, I don't mind that doesn't feel like the other 2 Ant-Man films. That's not my problem with it. Just no one has an arc, and I don't think the story is just there. And there are a lot of exposition dumps that have to take place in this movie. And I think it happens just way too often. And it just feels like a lot of these characters just have nothing to do. Hank, Hope, they're very much sidelined in this movie. I think moving forward, again, I'll get to my spoiler review, what I think has to happen moving forward. Sorry, I'm not even going to hint at anything that happens towards the end of the movie, but I'll let you know what I think moving forward in my spoiler review. I also think my final point also is that I think they needed a different director. I think Peyton Reed does a good job fitting that mold of what the first 2 Ant-Man films, but because of how drastically this feels, I think this franchise needed a different director to helm this movie. I just think this movie had too big of a scale for Peyton Reed. I do feel like they needed a different, fresh director, because this movie does not feel like the other 2 Ant-Man films. I think because of that, they needed another director. I think there were some limitations within the direction, in my opinion. So I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania a 3 out of 5 stars. I'm going to go 64% on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I liked it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a fine movie. I think it was definitely an above average film. I know it's getting very much divided. I'm definitely more positive than negative on this movie, but I can definitely see both sides of the argument, people not liking it and also people really liking the movie. But obviously Kang dominates the presence. He's fantastic. Janet Van Dyne was a great addition. The action scenes are awesome, but overall just is very flat from a storytelling point of view, from a character arc point of view, and from a dialogue point of view. So that's my non-spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. What are your thoughts in the comment section down below? Tomorrow, spoiler review, more videos, including a Last of Us episode 6 review coming on Monday. Box office breakdown show. We'll see how Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania does at the box office on Tuesday. And Wednesday, we'll have another review of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. And then next Friday, I'll have a review of Cocaine Bear. So more reviews are coming to the channel. Please subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys soon.